Before we start the video, I think I should explain the origins of this MacBook and why it is in the state that it is currently in. In 2017, I was rummaging through bins with a friend of mine of a recently closed computer repair store, trying to find anything of use. At the bottom of the bin, I found this MacBook, dripping with coffee and other bin juices. It was in an awful state, missing the hard drive and bottom case, with cracks all through the chassis and trackpad. We thought it was junk, but I decided to take it home anyway, just in case I needed it for parts in the future. When I got home, I dried it out with a space heater and decided I might as well try and boot it, because why not, right? Well, to my surprise, the machine actually booted. After that point, I decided to start using it as my daily driver, as my previous laptop, a Celeron HP X360, was as slow as molasses. I didn't have much money, so I couldn't afford any replacement parts other than a new battery. I actually used a piece of cardboard as the base, and was definitely frowned upon countless times by Apple Store employees. But it didn't matter to me. As long as I could do my schoolwork and it could handle basic web browsing, I was happy. I ended up giving it to a friend who was in need of a laptop, and only recently have they upgraded so I could have this one back. This machine is in a sorry state. Not even the super drive works anymore. I think it deserves some love. I've ordered all the parts I should need, and today I will go about restoring it to its former glory. Normally, you would start by removing the bottom case of the MacBook, but since this one is missing, we can start right away by removing the logic board. Usually, you'd want to disconnect the battery before starting disassembly, but this battery is dead and holds no charge, so I didn't bother in this case. There is a number of Torx and Phillips head screws holding in the logic board. We will want to remove all of them, including the ones holding in the fan assembly and titanium brace. Be sure to undo all of the cables connected to the board, as you don't want to damage any when removing it. The connectors in this specific model of MacBook can become quite brittle over time, so be careful when removing them as not to crack any of the delicate plastics. Here you can see almost 12 years worth of dust blocking the exhaust. This would definitely have increased the operating temperature by a significant margin. In the case of this machine, it wouldn't even boot anymore because of all the debris. With the brace and fan assembly removed, the logic board should now be free. You can now gently pull the board up, but make sure none of the connectors are caught. Once out, you can disconnect it from the MagSafe connector. Now we can remove the heatsink and take a look at our Core 2 Duo and GT9400M. Over time, the original thermal compound has gone hard and crusty. I doubt it transfers heat very well anymore. We will definitely make sure to replace that. I usually start by scraping off the thermal paste with a plastic opening tool, making sure not to damage the die or the little resistors surrounding it. Doing a second pass with a paper towel usually gets rid of any remaining gunk, although if you have isopropyl alcohol on hand, I would definitely recommend using that to help clean the die. Now to clean any dust from the logic board. I use this slime-like substance, which has always worked perfectly for me, and gets dust and grime out even from the smallest of crevices. It's non-conductive, so shouldn't damage any delicate components on the board, and it's the best way of getting surface dust off a board without washing it. Compressed air will also do a good job if you rather use that. Now to put fresh thermal paste onto the CPU and GPU. A small dot on each die is all you need. Then mount the heatsink on top, and make sure to screw it in firmly. Now to clean out the inside of the replacement casing. I work my way around the case with the slime and get dust out of all of the little gaps. I make sure to plug in the trackpad cable. This model of MacBook actually won't boot without it. The MagSafe connector can now be reattached to the logic board, and then the board can be inserted into the chassis and realigned with its new screw posts. Now all of the Torx screws that originally held the board in place can be reinserted. I make sure to clean out the fan before reseating it into the chassis. I try and pick some RAM that I think will work in this machine. And plug in the rest of the connectors into the board. Now we can flip the board around and see if it posts. Look at that! We're getting a video output. Already an improvement from before. The clean must have worked. We can now fully reassemble the machine. I start by inserting a new and working super drive, then the battery. This battery is really nearing the end of its usable life, but should work well for now. I might have to replace it further down the line. The screws that fasten the previous battery are still lodged into this chassis, with parts of the previous battery as well. This is why you should always keep tabs on your battery, as the one that used to be in here expanded to nearly 3 times its original size. With some effort, I managed to get the old battery screws, ready to be used with the new-ish battery. The battery now fits perfectly and can be fastened in. I work on removing the SSD from the old housing. It was held in with double-sided tape and was quite a chore to remove. But since I didn't care much for the old casing, I wasn't worried about any damage. This machine originally shipped with a conventional mechanical hard drive, but having an SSD in the system greatly improves its speed for day-to-day use. I mount it into the new chassis, using the double-sided tape that was already on it. It still seems strong enough to keep it in place, and since I don't have the original mounting caddy, this will have to do. I thought I'd do something different for the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth card, and try to use a spare Bluetooth 4.0 card I had spare from a 2012 MacBook Pro. Since this card is a different size and has a different mounting mechanism, I worked on modifying it. Now with the modified card in place, we can install a bottom plate for this MacBook. I ordered this one from AliExpress for $40, and was impressed by how good its condition was. The MacBook was also missing case screws, so I ordered a fresh set off eBay. The only issue was that they took 5 months to arrive. With all the screws in place, we can test the MacBook one more time. As you can see, it boots right up. This still has a lot of personal files on it, so I've done my best to hide those. Ah, Sierra. A simpler time, with 64-bit compatibility and no metal requirements. Since the MacBook seems to be working correctly, we can get started on cleaning it. I work my way around the MacBook lid, and gently rub with a paper towel and dishwashing liquid. Try to avoid abrasive cleaners, as they can scuff the glossy protective layer on the MacBook. For the harder to clean spots, I use a small amount of gumption on my paper towel. This is a common cleaning product and can be used to clean out deep scores and scuffs. I'd advise against using this in large quantities though, as it does scuff the plastic. For the inside of the MacBook, I follow a similar process, making sure not to let any liquid into the keys or trackpad. Be careful when cleaning the keycaps and MacBook logo, as they can be scratched off if you apply too much force. As for the display, I use a simple screen cleaning solution and a microfiber cloth. Use one side of the cloth for the initial clean, rubbing in a circular pattern. Then use the other side of the cloth to do a final pass of the screen in straight lines. Good as new. I'd say it cleaned up pretty well. Now to upgrade this install to Catalina, using DOSDude's Catalina patcher. Normally I would perform a fresh install, but since this was my first copy of macOS, I'd like to preserve it. I've fast forwarded through this process, as if you want to do this yourself, there are many other guides online that you can follow, and they're all far better than anything I could do. Overall, it took about 2 hours to download everything and install it. Overall, I'm incredibly happy with how this laptop turned out. From a coffee-covered piece of junk I found in the trash, to my entry into the world of Apple notebooks, it helps me through high school, and without it I likely would have never owned a MacBook. It's no powerhouse, but it's still more than capable for day-to-day tasks. I'll make sure to keep using it for years to come. It's still not perfect, it could definitely do with a RAM upgrade, but it's in far better condition than how I found it. I think fixing it up was honestly the least I could do after everything it's done for me. Here's to another 11 years, buddy. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please have a look at my channel to find others like it. If you have any other questions or advice, please don't hesitate to put it in the comments below. Links to materials and music that I use in this video will be in the description. If you're curious about my iMac G4 project, don't worry, I'm still working on it. If you'd like to be kept up to date on it and other things that I'm working on, please check out my Twitter, where I post updates on my progress regularly.